Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Cinema Chazzy, the segment on this channel where I talk about movies, where I review them, I discuss them, I analyze them, I give my most critical feedback, my most honest opinions about them. And it is a very long-running series on this channel. I've done a lot of movies, and because movies are, I don't think that any one human being can ever watch every single movie that has ever existed. So, there's always going to be movies for me to review. This is definitely going to be the longest running series on this channel, along with Telechazzy, where I do the same thing but with TV shows. But anyway, so today's movie is called Pompeii, and I'm pretty sure some of you guys may have seen this coming since I have been playing Rise, Son of Rome a lot lately, and I don't know, it's like, it feels very good to get into this kind of thing, Roman mythology and that kind of thing, because I've always been a fan, except for when I was a kid back in high school. I kind of flunked history class, a few years there, but hey, sometimes you have to fall to know how to get back up, but I consider myself to be quite a history buff today, like, I like researching stuff, not just for YouTube, but for fun and to learn, to get new knowledge and all of that. And anyway, so the movie Pompeii, as you guys may have already imagined, is based on what actually happened in the city of Pompeii back in AD 79, which I actually recorded a video about. I talked about the tragic fall of Pompeii, and how Mount Vesuvius erupted. And this movie is basically exactly that, but it takes us through it gives us a historical setting, and we already know when the movie starts what's gonna happen. We know the city is doomed. They didn't try to change history or anything of the sort, but they gave us kind of like a Titanic-esque star-crossed lovers storyline, where they have two people, the daughter of is he an emperor? No, he's not an emperor. He's whatever. I'm gonna look that up later and tell you guys. But the daughter of a rich family falls in love with a poor gladiator who's gonna die in the arena anyway. And then they start getting the hots for each other. They start getting frisky, And we got the dude from Game of Thrones. It's all over the place, man. And it's actually nice because the character development is really cool. The dynamics are very interesting to see because we see, for example, gladiators getting together. Like, gladiators are opponents by nature. They are there to kill each other. So it's literally, whoever's alive wins, So it's not exactly a good idea to try to make friends, with other gladiators, because you guys are going to have to fight to the death later. But despite that, against the better judgment and the logic of what it would dictate, two gladiators, Milo and I think his name is Atticus, they actually, at first they are rivals, but then they slowly start to befriend each other, and towards the end they're actually very close. They call each other brother, So and they try to help each other, escape the city, And they're actually two very decent men, they're actually very good guys. I really like both of them. Very good performances by both of the actors, Kit Harington and also the other guy whose name I forgot, but I'm gonna look that up in a little bit. I have the cheat sheet here, which I will barely need to use because I pretty much know this movie beat by beat already. But anyway, wait, sorry about that.
It was the jewel of our empire.
People of Pompeii! Let the games begin!
Now, a really crazy thing about this movie, and something that I really can't wrap my head around, because I understand that movies are made to, serve as illusions of entertainment. We're supposed to watch a movie and imagine that they are there right now, facing the events that we see. Obviously, the actors were not really in Pompeii. You can go there today, but I don't think it's a good idea to film anything there because the city is still crumbling. It's in ruins. It's very fragile. So they actually filmed it in Toronto, Canada, at certain studios, and it's really weird how they made everything look like it really was there in Pompeii, because most of the shots, actually pretty much all of them, I'm pretty sure the vast majority of the film was made in CGI, and it's really cool. Like, a little behind the scenes fact for you guys, the production team actually flew overhead with a helicopter over Pompeii, right, and actually got actual landscapes of the city so they can use later to map out the 3D renderings. It's really cool. Very awesome process. So what you guys see in the movie is what I consider to be the most accurate accurate depiction of the city of Pompeii in fiction ever, you know, and that's really saying something. And of course there were a few historical inaccuracies and all that, you know, which is to be expected. You can't be 100% true to the source material. Like people were complaining about, for example, the women, how they were left alone in the courtyard and how they were involved in politics and the way they were dressed, revealing their bodies, you know. But I mean, I understand that the director tried to make something a little bit more modern and at the same time like have, I don't know, guys. I mean, it was in the past, but also that he tried to modernize it, you know, having, for example, an African-American actress, you know, in one of the roles. Very beautiful girl, by the way. I really like her, but unfortunately, I always forget her name. But anyway, I think the movie was very well shot, you know. I think that the combination of on-location shots with CGI made it really, really stand out, you know. I think it was stupendous, and the story itself was interesting because when we watched Titanic back in the 90s, it's like, wow, Rose and Jack, you know, this never happened. There was no registry of this, you know, but it's the idea of taking two people who clearly are at completely different levels, you know, in society, and against their own and everyone else's better judgment, they fall in love with each other, and everyone around them disapproves, but nothing in the world can stand between them, you know. Even though at the end of Titanic, Jack unfortunately dies and Rose goes on to live a full life without him, you know. And it's not exactly the same thing here because both of the characters die in Pompeii, you know. Spoiler alert, by the way. But then again, this movie came out in 2014, so if you still haven't seen it, I mean, what the hell are you waiting for? Come on. But so they take the idea of two star-crossed lovers, you know, almost like a Romeo and Juliet-esque kind of thing, and then they put it into a historical depiction of an actual disaster that happened, you know. And we're talking about a gladiator and the daughter of a rich family, man. You know, gladiators were looked upon as animals, you know, because they were prisoners who were literally put into an arena, a coliseum, to fight until one of them died for the people's entertainment, you know. So they were viewed as animals, you know, like they were like the scum of the earth, you know. So for a high-class woman to fall for and actively pursue a relationship with a gladiator who's doomed to die and is only there for her entertainment, I mean, I don't know, man. I think back in the day, it's like, it's worse than, I don't know, maybe like a modern day rich business magnate falling in love with a poor drug addict prostitute. I don't know. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, by the standards of back then, it was considered like an abomination, you know?
Tomorrow we fight. Slaves that live earn their freedom.
Now, an interesting tidbit of info about the lead actor, Kit Harington, who also played our beloved Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. He actually underwent a really intense training regimen. You know, he wanted to really bulk up for the role, and I can understand it, you know. I mean, you're gonna play a gladiator. Those guys were known for being huge, you know, they were really big. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger might have been envious of gladiators, you know, and the legends of gods like Hercules, you know, demigods and all that thing, you know, those guys were huge, you know. Their muscles were just rippling all over their bodies, you know, so I can understand him wanting to put on just a little bit more weight, but I still think he overdid it. He went just a little bit overboard because this guy was going to the gym like 3 times a week, you know, 3 times a day for 6 days a week, you know. So he was becoming a workaholic, you know, in that sense, you know. And he stated that he had never done something like this before, like undergo a serious physical transformation for a role. So he just wanted to see what it was like, you know. But, you know, his own trainer said, look, man, you gotta stop, you know, you're starting to dysmorph your body, you know. It's called, damn it, I completely forgot. Body dysmorphia, you know, that kind of thing. So his trainer was alerting him to this, you know, because it was starting to get out of control. And I can understand it, you know. I can understand if you actually enjoy working out, you know, and I know it looks good it feels good to see your body get bigger and bigger, and you probably look in the mirror and feel like you look good, you know, especially when you're a famous actor and millions of people are watching you on screen. So I can understand that self-esteem could be an issue, but, you know, you gotta be careful, man. You know, you can't just pull a Christian Bale and go from a toothpick to a freaking Schwarzenegger style beast, you know, in between movie roles. So, but I still think he bulked up pretty well. I still think he did a pretty good job. Very good performance. I liked him a lot. Kit Harington is actually a British actor, but he does a pretty interesting American accent, you know. I actually can't remember now if he put on an American accent for The World in Pompeii. Can't remember. He played a guy named Milo. But anyway, oh yeah, and the other got my little cheat sheet here. The other guy who I said was the other gladiator who played Atticus, it was Adewa. Oh, come on, dude. Adewale Akinoyul Agbaji, you know, because he's apparently British, but of course his descendancy is African American, those kinds of places there. And I think that like the historical accuracy, you know, like depicting in the movie, I think was actually really cool because it actually comes from something that I'm going to read to you guys right now, you know, because the film relies very heavily on historical events from 2 letters from Pliny the Younger to the Roman historian Tacitus, and it opens with a quotation that goes like this. You could hear the shrieks of women, the wailing of infants, and the shouting of men. Some were calling their parents, others their children or their wives, trying to recognize them by their voices. People bewailed their own fate or that of their relatives, and there were some who prayed for death in their terror of dying. Many besought the aid of the gods, but still more imagined there were no gods left, and that the universe was plunged into eternal darkness forevermore. And because of that, you can actually see that, like, think about it, guys. Back in the day, these people really worshiped these gods, you know, like fervorously. And to them, the world was very small. You know, they weren't aware that there were many other places. So for the small community of Pompeii to be so viciously, you know, leveled, demolished by a volcano, you know, such a powerful natural disaster. I mean, to them, it really was the end of the world, you know. To them, it was the end of times, you know. And they really did a really good job of depicting that. You know, they actually studied, the production team studied very closely recent volcanic eruptions. You know, there was one in Italy too that was served as the main source of inspiration. They looked at so many a lot of footage and countless photos, and they would actually work, you know, throughout the process of creating the CGI explosions. You know, they would actually have photos, you know, propped up next to them so they can actually let me try to speak a little slower. Propped up next to them so they could actually have a better direct inspiration for the movie, you know. And I think it was really nice. You know, there were a few things that they just put in there for dramatic effect, like the fireballs raining down from the sky. That never happened, you know. They just did it for dramatic effect. But overall, they were actually very well praised, you know. I think that people, historians, you know, volcanologists, everybody praised, you know, this part of the movie because it was actually scarily accurate. You know, it was so accurate that it was scary, you know. Like, imagine being there and actually going through that, you know. And then of course we had later the cast that were left behind by the people who died. We see that too, the 2 lovers who were hugging, you know, an actual real thing. And that is what they used to make Milo and what was the princess's name? I forgot her name. Emily Browning is the actress. Chazzy Cassia, you know, it shows them embracing as the pyroclastic flow engulfs them and turns them into casts, you know. So very creepy, but also very you know, very dramatic, you know.
What is this?
It is the mountain. But for all our strength,
Can you feel that?
we lived in the shadow of a greater power.
But anyway, guys, in a nutshell, I think the movie was really, really well done, you know, and there was a little bit of a time crunch. Like, they kind of squeezed the time frame a little bit to fit more stuff into the movie, you know, and they kind of sped up a few things, you know, but it still was really, really good, you know. I think it was really well depicted. If you tried to give an accurate depiction of what it was like when Vesuvius went off, you know, I mean, we'd have like a 3-hour-long movie like the Titanic, you know, because Titanic was actually very, very close to the original, you know, and what happened. They didn't really cut out too much. You know, that's why it was so long. But I think that, you know, everything was good. The soundtrack, the cast, everybody acted really well, you know. I think that it was really well paced and perfectly edited, you know. Like, it's one of those movies where the CGI is done so well that it doesn't really look like CGI, you know. Different from movies like Jurassic World, you know, or the sequel Fallen Kingdom, you know, which, by the way, I love those movies to death. I love Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, but man, those movies really crapped out a lot of CGI. But anyway, the point is that I think that Pompeii was a very good example of CGI done right, you know. There wasn't too much, you know, and just less, like, how can I explain this? There was enough that the movie still seemed realistic, and at the same time, you could see that, maybe I'm not expressing, like, there was a perfect balance of CGI. Not too much so that it didn't look realistic, but not too little that it looks like, you know, and it doesn't look like a disaster movie, you know. It was a very good balance, you know, and seeing people die in the horrific ways that Vesuvius took the lives of those Roman citizens, you know, to me was just amazing, you know, as morbid as that is to say. Very good movie. I think it's very underrated. I think it deserves a lot more love than it gets, you know. I've seen very few people talk about it and give it praise, but I definitely, here on my channel, on Cinema Chazzy. Yet another movie that gets the perfect 10 out of 10 mark right there, baby. That's how I do. You know, it's very, very hard for me to give a review of something that's less than the 10. The last time was The Mist. You know, that show freaking sucked. But anyway, that's it for today, guys. I have given my opinion about the movie. You know, I think it's really, really cool. If you still haven't seen it, go ahead and watch it. It is definitely worth it, believe me. You know, and then tell me later what you thought about it, if you already seen it, or if you well, then again, if you watch this video until the end without seeing the movie, you just gave yourself a bunch of spoilers, so you're kind of stupid. But anyway, well, regardless of how you come across the movie, let me know. Drop a comment letting me know if you like it. The best way for me to know if you guys liked it or not is by liking the video or dislike it, because I can actually kind of get a good margin of whether or not you guys actually enjoyed it or not. So there's a good way to do it too. So that's it, guys. That's it, you know. That's it. Wow, that felt good reviewing a movie again, coming back from my hiatus. My first movie review after coming back from my little mini vacation. And I hope you guys enjoyed it, all right? That's it for now, guys. This is Chazzy, signing out for now. And as always, I will see you guys in my next video.
Whatever is happening here, find freedom, my friend. We have to get to the harbor.